you want to be something, be a listener. Live your life being completely open, listening. Allow everything you experience to unfold in this listening. Whether it's an internal experience like a thought or a feeling, or an external experience like another human being. Remind yourself that you are the listening. After you are established in listening, there may come a time when you feel a kind of divine indifference. Seeing and feeling that the ultimate reality of the universe is not different from love. And that nothing in this so-called physical dimension in space-time is going to make it. So the fleetingness of experience doesn't bother you anymore. But you cannot go there with the mind. The divine indifference is only true from the experiential viewpoint. Otherwise, it's a defense that the apparently separate self, the ego, uses so it can continue with its two favorite hobbies, seeking and resisting, fear and desire. Avoiding something, lacking something. Acceptance divine indifference, letting it be. All of these are quite often used by the apparently separate self to avoid doing what truth is telling you to do. Some of you is wondering why I talk slowly, and there are times when I close my eyes and say nothing. It is because, especially in the mornings, the felt unity, the feeling of our shared being, in other words, love, is so strong it's sometimes difficult to formulate words, at least in at a rapid, normal pace. So it's just love giving you an opportunity to listen to the silence behind the words. There truly is no teacher. If you feel you are not as enlightened as Buddha or Ramana Maharshi, you misunderstood what they are saying. We are enlightenment. That is our true nature. Nothing I say or do makes any sort of, doesn't make any difference to that which we already are. There is this saying, if I speak, I am a liar. If I remain silent, I am a coward. This points to the paradox of appearing as somebody that teaches the truth. There is only one sage. And perhaps sometimes when you are in nature and see the miracle of life unfolding, it becomes clear to you in that moment who you really are. Or you watch the innocence of a child or animals playing with each other. Or maybe in the midst of psychological suffering, you suddenly perceive something and feel it. The truth of the matter is, you already are Buddha wisdom. But the Buddha wisdom is not truly available or accessible in our lives until our limiting beliefs of the self, of who we are at least to some extent examined and investigated. There are really two different paths to live a great life. One is investigating the nature of reality long enough that you simply have no choice but to surrender the concept of the personal self, having never found a shred of evidence that anything else than awareness itself truly is. And the second is surrendering to a God that is infinite. These are really the same path in the end, but because of our different temperaments and psychological conditioning, other humans will be strongly drawn by the self-investigation, and others more strongly by the surrendering to God. On the path of self-investigation, learn to know the difference between storing a concept to your memory and using the concept as a pointer to something that cannot be articulated. You cannot become more or less who you are through self-investigation. But you can get clarity into what you are not. And clarity into what you are not grows from a tiny seed into a mighty tree of freedom. On the path of self-investigation, you are not interested in whether you have a special relationship, whether you marry, whether you have children, whether you have money. You are not interested whether the past has unfolded in a just or unjust way. In fact, you replace all your complaining and questions with one single question. Who am I really? Am I a separate consciousness or not? What is the source of happiness? Does happiness truly come and go? As my interpretation of my lived experience seems to suggest. Now, this may sound like very different questions. The nature of consciousness and the nature of happiness, the nature of reality. But it is because the answer is infinite. It cannot be put to words. There are many different angles. On the path of self-investigation, you realize that consciousness is happiness, is joy, is peace, is not separate from anything. Ultimately, everything is alone from it. So this leaves you in living your life in happiness and peace, because what you are will always be. And the nature of that being is happiness, love, and peace, although not limited to those words. The second option, surrendering to an infinite God. I should say something of the absolute importance of understanding the infinity of God, meaning God cannot be limited by any words or dogmatic judgments. Can you perceive how small God would be if it would belong to one religious tradition on planet Earth? This tiny, tiny fraction of an universe. I would suggest that is no God at all. If you have problems with anything on Earth, like relating to humans expressing sexuality or or anything that the traditional religious values don't much like. You are saying that let your will be done. You are saying that you as an individual person knows what should happen on earth. This is a recipe for disaster, both collectively and individually. If God is infinite, God is everything. If God is everything, why would there be any sort of problem with anything? What does the individual mind know of the true purpose of life? On who should suffer and how much? Do we have the total picture? Can we judge the events of the earth and in the world without even knowing truly what death is? So think about that. It's good to think of the limitations we tend to associate with the word God. For the infinite loves to contemplate its own nature. Although we may only understand a little fraction of it. This is our true freedom. To contemplate here, right now, the presence of awareness, the reality of the universe and the reality of God. Until I'm not really sure if there's an until. The joy of living in this kind of inquiry is too great for me to try to limit it in space and time. It's soon Eastern in Finland, and though I'm not a very devout Christian, I am a part of the church because I've always felt that they do good work, and when there are people in our society who can no longer stand for themselves, the church is still an institution that stands with them. And for that, I'm gladly a part of it. Now, I'm not an expert on Bible, but I've listened and read enough of the great teachers to know that the fundamental aspect of the life of Jesus was that he visited his friends, shared food and wine with them, and generally had a very good time. So perhaps next time you are sharing food and wine with dear friends and family, you realize that there is nothing more sacred. Thank you, and to whatever religion or non-religion you feel you belong, I wish you the absolute best. Goodbye.